Young and the Restless spoilers. Nick runs straight to Sharon. Are old feelings coming back? The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, just lived through an exhausting and terrifying night. But when things got real, it wasn't his father, Victor Newman, Eric Braden, or sister, Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinle, called. It wasn't even Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford. Nick called Sharon Newman, Sharon Case. They say old habits die hard. Nick and Marie Kirkland, Jade Harlow, shared a passionate night that consisted of doing drugs and each other. He tried to pull a fast one and sneak out, though, even leaving a note for her. What a thoughtful guy. However, when he went to try to wake her, she didn't move. Terrified, he did chest compressions until she gasped back to life. She explained that she wanted to die, but he wasn't going to let her. Eventually, he was able to see her safely put back into an ambulance before crumpling into the bed and crying like a toddler. In this moment, his mind didn't go to his family. It went straight to Sharon. It's not a mystery that Nick and Sharon share a long and loving history together. She probably knows him better than anyone in Genoa City, and she's never been one to flinch away from him in his moments of need. When Nick was at his rock bottom and wincing in emotional pain, the only name that made sense to him was Sharon. That's not romance. That's muscle memory built over decades of chaos and true love. Here's where it gets interesting. Nick and Sharon have broken up and gotten back together enough times that Genoa City could set its calendar by it. Nick is about to head into rehab again, raw and stripped of every natural defense he usually hides behind. Sharon will probably be the one standing beside him as he rebuilds himself. Their children will probably have some comments and concerns about their parents circling each other again. And we can't wait to hear what Phyllis will have to say about the situation. Whether it concerns her or not, she will find her way into the drama and have plenty of witty insults prepared. Whether this becomes a full reunion between Sharon and Nick, or simply her way of helping the father of her children, one thing is certain. No one picks up the phone at 2 a.m. unless there are still feelings there. What do you think? Is Nick's call to Sharon just old habit? Or will this spark yet another round of the duo? Share your thoughts and remember to keep watching to see what happens next. The Young and the Restless is once again putting Nick Newman and Sharon Newman in the same emotional orbit, and longtime viewers know exactly why that matters. Nick has been through an exhausting and frightening stretch, battling his demons and making choices that have left him vulnerable. Yet when everything became too much, there was one person he instinctively turned toward: Sharon. That choice may be more significant than it first appears. Recent spoilers reveal that Nick called Sharon after his latest crisis, rather than turning to Victor, Victoria, or even Phyllis. For a man who has spent years trying to keep his emotions under control, reaching out to Sharon could reveal something he has been trying to bury. Could old feelings really be coming back? Nick still sees Sharon as his safe place. Nick and Sharon have one of those histories that never completely disappears. Their relationship has survived marriages, betrayals, heartbreak, family tragedies, and countless attempts to move on. Even when they are not together romantically, the emotional connection between them remains difficult to ignore. That is why Nick's decision to contact Sharon during a crisis is so intriguing. He could have called almost anyone in Genoa City. Instead, his instincts took him to Sharon. That suggests she remains someone Nick associates with comfort, understanding, and emotional safety. And Sharon knows Nick better than most people ever could. She has witnessed his greatest mistakes, his darkest moments, and his attempts to become a better man. She also understands the complicated Newman family dynamic surrounding him. If Nick needs someone who will listen without immediately judging him, Sharon is an obvious choice. But there may be something deeper happening beneath the surface. Nick's vulnerability could change everything. Nick has been dealing with serious personal struggles, and the recent storyline has placed him in increasingly dangerous situations. Fans have watched him battle addiction and wrestle with memories and consequences from his past. In that state, emotions can become impossible to ignore. Nick may initially tell himself that calling Sharon was simply practical, He needed someone he trusted. He needed help. He needed a familiar face. But once Sharon is standing in front of him, will he be able to keep those emotions neatly contained? That is where things could become complicated. There is a huge difference between needing an old friend and realizing that the person you have always trusted may still hold a piece of your heart. Sharon may sense that distinction too. Sharon could be torn between helping and hoping. For Sharon, Nick's return to her life could create an emotional minefield. She has her own history with Nick, and their past is filled with moments when they seem destined to find their way back to each other. At the same time, Sharon has endured enough heartbreak to know that love alone does not solve every problem. If Nick comes to her while he is vulnerable, Sharon may initially focus entirely on helping him recover. She could encourage him to seek professional support and make healthier choices rather than allowing their complicated history to become another distraction. But what happens if Nick starts opening up? What if he admits that he feels safest with her? What if he tells Sharon that, even after everything, she is still the first person he thinks about when his world falls apart? Those conversations could awaken feelings neither character expected. Of course, Nick's recent connection with Marie adds another layer to the situation. Viewers have seen Nick become involved with the new character while he has been struggling, creating plenty of speculation about where that relationship is headed. Online fan reactions have been divided, with some viewers hoping Nick ultimately finds his way back to Sharon, while others would rather see both characters move forward separately. That division among fans is exactly what makes the storyline so interesting. Nick does not necessarily have to choose Sharon immediately. In fact, rushing them back together could undermine the emotional weight of everything they have experienced. A better story would allow Nick to rediscover what Sharon means to him gradually. He could begin by leaning on her for support. Then, he might realize that he misses talking to her. From there, memories of their relationship could return. Eventually, Nick could be forced to ask himself whether his feelings ever truly disappeared. That would create a much more powerful reunion than simply putting them back together overnight. Could this be the start of a Nick and Sharon reunion? Soap operas thrive on history, and Nick and Sharon have plenty of it. Their relationship has always carried an emotional intensity that makes even a simple conversation feel significant. When these two characters are placed together, the past naturally becomes part of the present. Nick running to Sharon now could therefore be more than a plot convenience. It could be the writers reminding viewers that, despite all the twists and new relationships, Sharon remains important to Nick. That does not necessarily mean an immediate romance is coming. In fact, Nick has far too much personal work to do before jumping into another relationship. But the possibility is certainly there. The most interesting question may not be whether Nick still loves Sharon. It may be whether he is finally ready to admit that he never completely stopped. Sharon could become the key to Nick's next chapter. There is another reason this pairing makes sense dramatically. Nick's current storyline is about confronting his past and finding his way back to himself. Sharon has been part of his life through some of his most defining experiences. Bringing her closer to him now could allow the show to connect Nick's present struggles with his emotional history. Rather than Sharon magically fixing Nick, she could challenge him to fix himself. That distinction matters. Sharon could tell Nick that she loves him as a person but cannot rescue him from his choices. She could support his recovery while demanding accountability. And if romantic feelings begin to return, they would have to develop alongside Nick's journey toward stability. That could give both characters something meaningful to play. Old feelings may be stirring again. For now, fans should probably resist assuming that Nick and Sharon are immediately headed for another reunion. Soap spoilers can tease possibilities without guaranteeing the final outcome. Still, Nick's instinctive decision to call Sharon is impossible to dismiss. When everything went wrong, he did not simply look for anyone. He reached for someone who has occupied an important emotional place in his life for decades. And Sharon answered. That alone could be the beginning of something much bigger. Perhaps Nick only needs a friend right now. Perhaps Sharon will become his strongest source of support. Or perhaps, somewhere beneath all the pain, regret, and complicated history, Nick is rediscovering feelings he thought were gone.